Hiya, Sean. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Sean, I spoke to you a few times this season, and you've always been pretty sure that come the second half of the season, things will begin to turn for you guys. And you said you've got the experience of getting out of it. You've been there before. It looks as though now with this run that you're on, you're doing exactly that. How much does that please you?
Well, yeah, I didn't think we were far off during the season in general. We're not the real deal. We know that. We're constantly a work in progress, like most teams are. But I always believe in what we do. I always believe in what the players are trying to do. Forever proud of the players here working so hard to try and get results, try and win games. So that's kind of beyond results. But, that's my feeling towards them. And I think they're beginning to get the rewards for the hard work and the mentality of a season's work rather than just spells. It's difficult. We had a difficult start. Still loads of work to be done, mind you. But we're given a better show of what we're about. And I think we've kind of stripped it back, got the basics in the team right, and the players deserve a lot of credit for that. But now it's a continuation of it. We've had a nice little spell of results, nice little spell of performances, but it doesn't wait for you. You've got to keep going and getting it. And I think that's been the message all season. I think we're beginning to show that we're willing to go and do that.
One defeat in the last seven, Sean, and given the schedule you've had, it's pretty much just been game after game, weekend, midweek for the best part of the last month. Added to the fact you obviously lost Chris Wood as well in January. Just how impressive has that been? How much have the players impressed you with what they've done?
Well, the work ethic's been strong here for a long time. We know the stats, we know the facts of our second halves of seasons. We know how strong we are physically. We know the mileage we're putting onto the clock for these games and these performances. So we know we're capable of doing that. The game schedule is what it is. There's no excuses for that. It's a reality. No one wanted the COVID situation, quite obviously, and the knock-on effect of that. We're a bit unlucky with one game, which, very unusual nowadays due to adverse weather with the snow. So we've got to catch them games up. That's just a simple fact of it. And the players here, their mindset is quite clear. The games are getting put in. We're going to take them on, the best of everything that we've got.
We spoke to James Tarkowski earlier, who said that you guys had a meeting where you kind of like put your heads together and got some things off your chest, and the decision was to try and just go back to basics, what you guys are good at. And he said since then, the Leeds game, everything seems to have changed since then. He feels that that's been a turning point. Would you agree with that?
Well, you can never define these meetings. It wasn't like anything other than just a throw around of ideas, and thoughts. And I trust our players, their feedback. I think there was a mixed feeling of our views, their views, and I think we just realigned what's necessary beyond everyone else's views, because there's a certain amount of work that's required. There's a certain amount of belief in what we do and reminders of what we do. So we literally agreed situation between myself, the staff and the players. Right, we need to strip it back, get back to what we're good at, get back to the rawness and the edge that we play with. And I think the players deserve an enormous amount of credit for that, because them meetings can be, we've all done it, and everyone, some meetings mean something, some meetings don't. The proof's in the actions afterwards, and the players have quite obviously taken action and responsibility and ownership of what's been shared, because I thought that not the turning point, I don't think you can define it as one game, but the whole structure, mentality and work ethic of the side against Arsenal away was excellent. We've continued in that vein. Started doing the basics even better than we were, because I've said all season we weren't a mile off. We definitely weren't. But when you're teams like us, the margins are really tight. That extra 1%. I know it's a famous saying now. Dave Brailsford, Sir Dave, kind of really was the one who got that saying out there, or people said it for him, I think. But them 1%, they count. And sometimes it's as little as that, but that can be the deciding factor. If you add that up across a team, all them tiny margins, they start making the team more powerful, and the players deserve an enormous amount of credit for that so far, because it is only so far. There's a lot of work to be done.
Last one from me, Sean, just off top a little bit. Leeds have obviously decided to part company with Marcelo after a few really good years in charge. How do you see that as a rival manager looking on?
Reality of the industry, legend at Leeds, legendary figure, earned the right to be that with his different way of doing things. In my personal opinion, I always found him to be incredibly straight talking, straight-minded about the situation. So I certainly don't think he'll be hurt by it. I think he's been in the game long enough to know the realities of it. And that is, if you don't get enough results, or what's deemed enough results, then you find yourself in trouble at some point. but it's certainly no slant on his work there. I think he's done a lot of. I mean, you got to remember the same guy getting lauded all last season and virtually this season, not by himself, it must be said, by people on the outside of the camp. I think he's just been doing what he does. He believes in it. He sticks by it. And they've had a lot of trouble this season with, I mean, all of us have. I'm not going to cry in for others. We've had our fair share of trouble with injuries and COVID, and they have as well. And it's very difficult. You know, when that kicks in, unless you're the real superpower clubs who have got, 20 plus international players, it's difficult. You know, if you lose the players who have been very effective for you, it is difficult. But it's still the reality of the job. We all know it. Every manager knows it, and he certainly will know it. If you don't get enough results, or as I said, deemed enough results to be in where people think you should be, then eventually you pay the price. But I think most people would say he's been a positive effect on what's happened in football, the thought on football, some of the differences, ways of doing things differently. He's certainly got that, his own way of doing things. So when another manager goes, I don't want to see it. No one does in management, but all of our days come eventually.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Becky?
Hi, Sean.
Hiya.
Can I just check in on team news? How's the squad looking? Has everyone come through from the weekend?
I'm waiting on Eric Peters. He got a slight tweak on his knee, so we're waiting on the scan on that. He doesn't train today, so it's unlikely. Dale Stevens missed out the weekend. He's got a slight strain, so he'll probably miss out. Good news is Charlie Taylor's fit and well, and got sort of half an hour in the game the other day. Westy's back after COVID, and Cleary had only had 1 day's training, so he's available. Maxwell's fitter again because he'd been carrying a bit of a knock on his ankle. He'd only had 1 day's training before the Palace game, so he's trained today. So generally, again, but Matej Vidra's back on the grass. I mean, he's not ready yet, but he's getting there. The only one longer term one at the minute is Johan Gudmundsson, and he's going to be some weeks. It's not going to be days. It's going to be some weeks. He's been very unfortunate, Johan, incredibly unfortunate, in fact.
Thanks for that. Leicester up next. Where do you make it where they're at?
Well, I think they've done a lot of good work over the last few seasons, and Brendan Rodgers done a lot of good work there. It's hard to maintain their milestones every single season. I think like a lot of teams like ourselves, maybe they've not been a million miles away from where they want to be. They've got a few injuries and things like that can affect you. They've got their own challenges and they've set the bar very high. The last couple of seasons, they've set the bar very, very high. They won the league, which is an amazing story. A couple of tough seasons then. And since Brendan's been there, they've been a good side. I mean, they've been a very effective side, very good side. And then this season, they're probably on their first lot of challenges, like I say, injuries, COVID, all these different challenges. But they're still a decent side. They've got a very good manager, and I think they're a very good outfit. So we have to make sure that we're continuing the strong run of form we're in and be up for the challenge.
Well, yeah, a win could pull you up out the relegation zone. First time since, I think, October. Is this the opportunity that you've been waiting for?
Well, you don't wait. Trust me, we haven't been waiting for anything. We've been trying to make it right, been trying to win games. We've earned the right. We have to continue doing that. I spoke about it all season. No one gives you anything, especially not in the Premier League. That's our mindset. We have to keep going. We have to keep taking on each game as it comes, as we do, and be really clear-minded that the last one doesn't owe you the next one. So we know we've got to play well against sides like Leicester. But you know that from your life in the Premier League. We've been in it a long enough period to know that you can't take anyone lightly in the Premier League. It's just not possible. Everyone on their day is a very good side. So you have to make sure your consistency is right. And over the last 7 games, our consistency of performance has been really, really good. We've got to maintain and keep going and keep building on top of that as well.